This is Jenny with Miami Lit Podcast, and today is a very special episode because we are at the amazing JCC Center with JADA Art Organization, and we have a full day of amazing guests that really reflects Miami Art Week, and we are kicking that off with none other than the amazing, the very talented, my friend, Diana Contreras. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting to be here.
Yes, we are so happy to have you here. And as you know, I have so many questions for you. To kickstart, how's Miami Art Week going for you? Because I know you're very busy.
It's been going great. There's so many cool events. I can't make it to everything I want to. But I've been trying to go to as many. I always go to Art Miami that I've been going to since the 90s. And I've been going to a lot of the parties, the PAM. And then also I did a mural in Wynwood and been watching all the new murals go up in Wynwood too.
What's your favorite thing this year from years past that you've seen so far?
Well, I've never gone to the PAM during Basel, and I liked their new exhibition, and the party was amazing. So that was the new thing that I've done. So that was really, I think, so far my favorite. But today's a long, exciting day.
This event, I feel like it's your favorite.
Yes.
They did such a beautiful job here at the JCC and JADA with their artwork. It's absolutely amazing. And it's so meaningful, the kind of art that they're displaying with the rich ancestry history that they dove into. I'm just in awe, and I'm so excited that we're here and we get to talk about it. Changing gears a little bit, you had your first experience this year entering the Web3 world. Tell me about it.
Well, you and Miami Lit Podcast approached me about creating NFTs, about turning, and I didn't know what NFTs were. So they wanted to just turn my physical art into one of one NFTs. So in the beginning, it was really great. It was like everybody was buying NFTs. And so we sold and we had good outcomes. People were very curious to learn. So I like the way we did it with the educational part and showing when people come to the events, it would show them how to open up a wallet and all those things. So it was a very exciting start. And then, things slowed down. So I have a lot of projects that were put on hold and we're just waiting for things to pick back up again.
Yeah. Do you think that you've had a good experience so far?
Yes, definitely. I mean,
or was it scary to be at such a high and then all of a sudden see this bear market that we're in?
Oh, the bear market. I wasn't scared because I have, my other art things that I do, the murals, the commissions, and commercial work. So I wasn't scared because it's something new. Yeah. I know that we're all just figuring it out and discovering it. So I believe in it. I believe that things are going to definitely get better. We're just got to fix some of the bugs. But definitely, I like the community aspect of it. And I like that the artists have, the ownership of it forever.
Right. What advice would you have to an artist or just anyone thinking about maybe diving into this space?
Definitely do your own research. Like, do as much research as you can. If there's things like this going on where you can go to a conference and learn, ask questions to people that are in it already. And if you want to start an NFT collection, like to find like good people, like the right team. You definitely can't do it alone. I think you need like a good team to make it like something that's long lasting.
Definitely. It seems very overwhelming to first dive into all of this. What was the transition for you to starting a new creative zone in such a new medium with digital art?
Well, I think that you guys just really like helped me to not be scared, you know?
Aw.
Um, the way that you guys made it so simple for me to understand and believed in me so much, it wasn't so scary. And I felt like we're doing it together.
That's true. We definitely are a
So it's not
team.
like, yeah, it's not like an artist launching by themselves. You know, you have a
Right.
team and we all want to win. You know, the motto is like, what was it? Like,
Well,
Wami,
we're
like,
all gonna make it.
yeah, we're all
Right?
gonna make it. So it's very positive. We're all gonna make it. So it's like that community part is really, very nice, and I'm not scared. You know, especially with you guys.
Thank you. So for those that are wondering what Dana's referring to, we helped transition your art into the NFT space. With the right people, the developers, and the people that really knew how to make that happen. So it was very exciting, and now we're just navigating the parts that are so uncertain. Do you like working in the digital medium, like in that realm?
Yeah, I mean
Because
it.
you went your what most people know you for, the amazing murals that are all throughout the city,
Mhm.
which is such a huge canvas. So
Yeah.
do you like working on
Oh,
your
like the
iPad
iPad.
and all that stuff?
Um, I like it because it's there's so many tools at your fingertips, and I don't have to make a mess, and it's something that I can do at home. I don't have to like run. You can do it anywhere, in the car, at home. You don't have to like take out your tools and make a mess. And as a mother, I think it's very easy. It's a lot easier to create art on the iPad than try to take out my paints because my kids will want to paint with me, and so I like that the iPad, I can do it anywhere.
Right.
And I have any brush, any material, any paint, any color.
Yeah.
I don't have to go to the store and buy one. I could download something, download more things. So it's really fun in that way.
Do you think the digital media or medium, I should say, sorry, will eventually replace like old conventional painting?
I don't think so.
I hope not.
I don't. I don't. I don't think it'll replace it. I think it'll maybe give it more value because since so many people are diving into the digital art and AI and everything, like handmade things will
Right.
be more rare. Like before, I didn't know how to do Photoshop. I still don't know how to do Photoshop. I was very bad with technology and digital things, so I would always have to draw each sketch. So I'd have like 10 sketch every time I want to change a color or something. I would like redraw it. So I'd have all these small little paintings, and people really liked those. They would buy them. So I was able to sell all the sketches.
Right.
They were all the original, different. And with the iPad, it's super easy. Just erase, go back,
Yeah.
delete, so that somebody was telling me about that. It'll be more rare to have those like hand drawings, those hand sketches. And
Yeah.
I don't think it'll
Makes a
go
lot of
away.
sense. And coming from you, because you're definitely a pioneer, I want to say, you've always been like ahead of the curve. Because when you started doing murals in Wynwood, no one was doing murals in Wynwood. No one wanted to go to Wynwood.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely not that many artists. There was a few, but there wasn't really any female artists.
Right.
Because I was trying to find like friends. So I just had to kind of teach myself how to use the equipment and paint with spray paint and bigger brushes. I went from like a hand brush to using like brooms and mops to paint the big walls.
That's so cool. Which is your favorite mural that you've ever done?
I love them. I love them all.
I know,
They're
that's
like
such
my
a-
kids. But I think the one that really changed my life was the one I named her Sophia Rose that was in Wynwood, because that was like 2012. That was the one that I painted her and I learned so much. It took me like 2 weeks. And it just opened so many doors because people, the people had never seen like a woman, female artist, local painting there. And I painted like a very like strong woman, like with lots of pink bows and everything. So a lot of pink, very like female empowerment. And that just, everybody went crazy for it. And I think that it went viral, and I think that it just opened doors. I got gallery representation. I got so much more opportunities, and I had been doing art forever, and it wasn't until I did that big mural that people like noticed or were excited about my art.
I can see why that one would be your favorite. Yeah, I have my favorite, which is, and I think you know this, the one that's on the bus with the
the ocean hair.
The ocean hair. Yes. I love that one so much. I hope you never stop making that one because it's just so beautiful.
Originally, it was here on the beach.
Right.
It was inspired by Miami Beach, and it was in a building in the beach.
So, as we mentioned a little bit ago, the exhibition this year at JADA, it really, at the JCC, really focuses on honoring our ancestors and our roots. And I know you do that in your own art a lot. Would you say that that's a big driving force in how you choose to portray certain things in your art?
I mean, I was born in Peru, but I grew up in Miami. So it just comes very natural to, like, my culture is, I'm very proud of being Peruvian, but I'm also very proud of growing up here and having that whole Latin culture and multicultural experience here. So I think I don't think about it. It just comes naturally to just be myself, and then it just comes out like that. I don't like go thinking about, you
just let it
flow. But I think I want to more. I want to like think more about my culture and see how I can visually express it. But everything that I've done before is just very natural.
Yeah. So cool. What can you share? Some future plans?
Some future plans?
With us? I know some things are not ready to be shared, but anything that you can.
I mean, I'm hoping that all my NFT projects that are old can come out.
Me too.
Next year. And for that to grow. And also I am, continuing doing murals all over. I want to, travel more and spread the art to other places in the world. Right.
What are your hopes for the art scene in Miami in the near future?
I hope that they don't push any artists out.
Oh my gosh.
Because everything's getting so expensive. Yeah. So a lot of artists, they need like a studio space, and like there's one, the Fountainhead is closing. That was a very affordable place for artists to work in. So I hope that we can make spaces that people can create.
Right.
And not have them, leave here, because they're the ones that art is what has made, Art Basel here in Miami so popular. Everybody comes here. So hopefully.
You're right. That would be such a shame, because I mean, Art Basel is such a part of Miami history now.
Yeah.
I hadn't quite thought about what you just said. And you're right. I hope more places create a space where artists can affordably create.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then it's going to just benefit everybody, like the artists, the public, the city. And then to have them living here and working here, we're going to get a lot more art than if they were just coming for once a year.
Right. That's so true, and such a concern. What last question for you? What do you think about women in the Web3 space? Has it been easy? Would you recommend it?
Yes, I think more women, the better. I think it's been very supportive. People, they're very excited to see other women in the space and want to learn from them. So I think it's great. More women in every field.
And I couldn't have said in a better way. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us. And we love having you, and we can't wait to see you back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
This episode is made possible by JADA Art Fair. Find out more at jadaartfair.com.
Hi, everybody. We are back with our next guest. Welcome, Antonio.
Pleasure to be here today.
I'm so glad you made it. I know Miami traffic is not the best, but here we are. So welcome to the JCC.
Thanks for having me.
JADA. Do you want to say your artist name?
Yeah, so I will say my full name and then my artist name because I have 6 names in Portuguese, you know?
That's right.
So it's Antonio. No, I'll just say my first and last. Antonio Trincao. And my artist name is Life.
Right. And you were born in Portugal.
Correct.
How old were you when you...
Sorry?
How old were you when you left?
23.
So you lived your whole
just
life
like
over there.
6 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you miss it?
I love Portugal and I go back often, and like, you know, I love America because America has the market and it's massive and ambitious and competitive, and Portugal is like my safe haven.
It's more laid back.
It's home, you know.
I have some family that just moved over there.
Lisbon?
Seeking that peaceful, laid back vibe.
You see?
Yeah.
Great food.
Yes.
Great weather.
Amazing cafes.
Yeah.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about your life as a music artist.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that I give a full picture about my journey. So I started working really young, like in the events industry as a bartender. I cleaned bathrooms. I did pretty much everything. And so I was very connected to the, you know, music industry, events, and doing a lot of entertainment shows. And then in college, I was actually part of a musical group called Azeituna. And I did shows all over the world in theaters. I performed one time for more than 150,000 people. And
that's so scary.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then at a point, I got acne, like a lot of acne. And, you know, for some people will say, sure, Antonio, like everyone gets acne, whatever. But for me, it represented like the biggest wall at that time. And I'm sure people in the audience, you know, have those type of problems that block them. And so I got very anxious and, you know, low self-esteem and, you know, very down. And so I started researching how to heal acne because no one would take me seriously, like doctors and stuff. And that's when I entered in the tech world. And so when I entered in the tech world, I had this idea of creating a platform to organize events online, kind of like Airbnb, but you could rent venues, photographers, caterers for your next event. We launched that business. I was working with my friends from my musical group. We got investment from Silicon Valley. We moved to Silicon Valley and I started building companies there, that first company. And, you know, at a point was going really well. We got like $1 million gross revenue, investors and stuff. But then with COVID, I had to shut down the company. Wow. And then I pivoted for virtual events. And when I pivoted to virtual events, we created like one of the very first virtual world platforms that really worked like with avatars and multiplayer and stuff. And we got featured all over the news, like Forbes, GQ, Vogue, Yahoo Finance, you name it. And so from day to night, I went from being a 3-people company to 36-people company. And I had a lot of growth during COVID. But then also we had a lot of success, but a lot of failures. So the product was crashing. I was not delivering the product. You know, customers were throwing money at us because our product was amazing, but couldn't scale. And so that's when I kind of like at the end of December 2020, I got very burned out because San Francisco was very, you know, intense because of the whole climate in America, right? Like COVID.
Yeah,
protests,
that was a tough
politics was a tough time. Yeah. And so I got a one-way ticket to Miami.
One way.
Yeah, out of the blue.
You knew.
Sorry?
You knew. That
No, I just like, I talked to a friend of mine and he was like, you know, come to Miami. And you can stay at, by the time, his girlfriend's house, which is kind of like a sister to me. And she's Cuban. So it's funny because it was my first touch with a Cuban community in Miami. You know what I'm saying? And I arrived at her place and I remember being, you know, there and was so peaceful, you know, out of that San Francisco tech, you know what I'm saying? Like environment. And so I never went back. I said, you know, told my friends, hey, go to my house, pack everything, ship to Portugal. And I never went back.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.
And obviously you love it here.
I love it. Yeah. Miami, I think, has all the ingredients that I love about a city, has a lot of potential. And I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. How was that transition from being a musician to being an entrepreneur in tech and now back to music?
Yeah. So was when I was in Miami, so interesting because now I read a lot of, mindfulness stuff and, tech, spiritual enlightenment and all these things. And what I have done was a thing that people talk about, which is I did a 5-day tech detox, no smartphone, no laptop, no tablet for 5 days. And I just wrote like a lot of different things like, what do I love? What are my fears? What am I ashamed of? What are my dreams? What have I accomplished in the last 5 years? And if you think about it, like I've not done that for the last ever, like I've never done that until that time, like I never thought for myself, like, what do I love to do? Like what do I want to accomplish? What are my dreams? And so I did that. And that's when I kind of got this message from God, you know what I'm saying? Where I was like, okay, you can make money, you can build businesses, you can pretty much build anything you want. Why don't you pursue your own dreams and really do what you want to do? You know what I'm saying? Which is music. Like I can create music like that, it's in me. So that's when I got the bravery, I would say, and courage to really, okay, you have a path, you know how to make money. Let's blend these two, expertises together, the music and the tech. And so you can be independent, not rely on labels, not rely on managers, whatever. And let's risk it all. And I did it.
Wow. I love that story.
Thank you.
Because I think there's no better way to really get to know yourself and work things out than on paper.
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
Pretty powerful.
You just have to do it. There's no
you
other
can't
way.
hide from it, right?
Yeah.
It's like whatever goes on there, you have to face it.
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah. That's, thank you for sharing that. I
My
think that's I hope that helps a lot of people listening or watching or both. How would you classify your music?
Like when people hear, they compared me a lot to Elton John, Queen, some George Michael, some Elvis Presley. It has those influences. But the interesting thing that I love about my music, like I feel that I represent a lot of my generation, which we love everything, right? Like we love the whole world. And so, yesterday I was showing a song that to friends of mine, and they were saying, this is crazy, bro, because you go from a ballad to Motown type of vibe. And then I have another song that I am very rock, then another very hard rock, then another very R&B's 90s, and then another bossa nova Frank Sinatra. So it's like, it's very rich. And I think, I don't know, but my generation, we're not stuck to one genre anymore. We love a little bit of everything.
Appreciate all sorts of different, yeah. And one thing that struck me about your music was, and I said this to you before, the first time I heard it felt like it had been out there for decades even. And it reminded me of like those Sunday mornings, many years ago when people would still play the radio and my mom would play like the stations that play the Bee Gees.
Exactly.
And, some 80s stuff. And that's like, it brought me back to that moment.
So the first song I'm dropping actually was recorded, the vocals at the Criteria Recording Studios where Bee Gees recorded Stayin' Alive.
No way.
And the song was actually mixed in the same console of Bee Gees, was owned by Barry Gibbs.
That is extremely
cool. So it has
cool.
the same,
it's like the recipe.
The same, dust, I would say.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was pretty on
on
point when.
Yeah, and actually, I'm working now with a publicist, and he was saying that first song I'm dropping, which is very funky, Stayin' Alive type of vibe, is very radio sounding. He said exactly that.
Yeah.
That.
I'm excited. Is that the December 16th launch?
The first one. Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So now I'm just on a road show to promote the first song launch. I did a concert 2 weeks ago at the Anderson I got like 300 people. Was interesting because, you know, a lot of people were my friends and, you know, they didn't really know what to expect. And so they came and I did a full show, like, you know, entrance, lighting,
Oh my
LED
goodness.
dance floor, you know, dancers, back vocals, you know, for like at the same time, 60 people, right? So, you know, anyone would call me crazy, you know, like, why are you doing such a big orchestration? But I wanted to do because I wanted to record the show and, you know, also have the show tested because now I have the show built so I can sell
Right.
to anyone. And so I have the footages and maybe we can actually share it after. And when the show starts, they were like, holy fuck, you know,
This
like,
is real.
this is real, you know?
Yeah.
And it was super cool. It was really cool.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What has been like the best experience so far you've had with your music?
It's definitely, you know, you are in the bed, like creating and going to sleep and just, you know, imagining the story of the song, writing chords and getting the groove right. And then seeing the final result. It's crazy. It's like, it's crazy.
So you love that creative process?
Yeah, I love it. It's crazy. It's like, I don't know. You know, I will never have a child because I'm a male, but I think that the comparison might be giving birth to kind of like a human being. It's like, you know,
Of course.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
I say that's a fair and logical comparison because it's
beautiful.
your baby. You created it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the Life Odyssey episodes.
Yeah, funny.
Yeah. Tell me about those.
Yeah, so that was basically kind of like for my community to sync them. You know, in a way, I just like to onboard people from a storytelling perspective, like very movie, you know, 360 perspective. And so I just didn't want to shift from being a tech entrepreneur to musician, rock artist out of the blue. You know, like I wanted to give them some context, onboard them on the journey. And so I created those comic art pieces and then I animated them in video. And it's really cool because it shows the why of why I'm doing these things. You know what I'm saying? Because the why is very important for me. You know, like I really care about the purpose and, you know, the reason why I'm doing this, because otherwise I could just be, you know, cutting coconuts and surfing. It would be easier.
They're really artistic. The episodes I caught on your Instagram account, they're amazing. The way you choose to tell the story in the comic book format, I think translates so well. It was super entertaining. And like you said, it really, it doesn't seem superfluous. It seemed very well thought out in what you want people to know about you.
Yeah. Thank you. That was the point. Yeah.
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 Well, it definitely shows.
It will have, we will have available also in a book in the future, you know, as
like
our
a physical book?
Yeah.
Okay.
As our community grows, then, you know, people will have that and some gifts inside of the book too. It's kind of like the book eventually is to actually help people become the best versions of themselves. Mm-hmm. Because my music is like, I always say this, if you become a fan of my music, you become a fan of yourself because my music is made to empower you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So everything I do is very to empower human beings to become the best version of themselves and believe in them. And the book is just, I think is really cool because it shows my whole journey and then some actions that you can do to, you know, become more open, spiritually speaking. And then my music is just a daily reminder to, you know,
that's
empower
so
people.
Cool. Because one of the things that struck me about you is how you, like you just said, you always bring it back to the audience, to the people, which I think is so refreshing because we see so many artists obviously wanting to become a brand and sell themselves, but you've taken a very interesting approach, which I think is so, like I said, it's refreshing and important because it an artist without an audience is kind of doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I think, you know, I think like in America, people don't understand this as much but I grew up in a very street environment. So I grew up with everyone around me, from criminals to doctors to, like in Europe, you don't have, like in America, a lot of social separation. You know what I'm saying? You grow with everyone around you. You know what I'm saying? All ethnicities, all sexual orientations, all like doesn't matter. So, when you grow up with so much diversity, you connect a lot with people. You know what I'm saying? And what I see in America, especially a lot of these new artists or entrepreneurs or whatever, is that they are very obsessed on their vision and focused on what they want to accomplish, but they don't really connect with anyone. You know what I'm saying? And so in Portugal, I was very connected, like with all the time in the street, all the time doing stuff, like playing and it's very different.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I hadn't realized that, but you're right. Yeah. Can you tell us about your first album, the Eternal Discovery album?
Yeah. So that album, again, has a huge variety. It goes from rock to pop to hip hop to bossa nova to ballads to romantic songs. And it's just like Eternal Discovery represents kind of like that endless journey to discover yourself and, pursuing the best version, which is kind of like my motto in life. I don't know if you care about numerology or astrology, but
I do. I think it's super cool.
So my numerology life path is 3. So, I'm here to increase my mental abilities throughout my life. And so I connect that with, becoming the best version of myself. I follow myself and the best version of myself in the future. And that album and everything I'm doing in those songs is to try to translate that to people so they replicate that to themselves, like to really, give them the spark to take action.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Thanks.
And you mentioned a little bit ago that you read a lot in those 5 days of tech detox.
Yeah, throughout my life.
Do you have a book that you felt, or a writer that was the most influential for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think there are like 3 or 4 books that come to my mind. One is The Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani. Life-changing.
I've not read that.
Life-changing.
Okay.
Awesome.
It's going on my list.
That one basically tells you how to, if you live your life in higher frequency, which means happiness and doing exactly what you want and what you love, your body and cells will be like way more alive. And it's kind of like a cyclic effect and a loop where, if you start doing what he says in the book, you become activating you activate the law of attraction, basically. And then the other 3 books are related with that. One of them is The Magic, which teaches you how to live in gratitude and practice gratitude every day. The second one is The Secret, which is from the same author. I don't know if you ever read.
That one I have read.
It's amazing too. And the 4th one is The Artist's Way.
From
Julia Cameron.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. That one it's incredible too. So you feel those really made a difference for you.
Yeah. Life-changing.
Yeah. That's amazing. Do you have any other plans into diving into the writing world besides the Life Odyssey?
Maybe. Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah. I think I'll always funnel 80% towards music, but maybe 20% will be maybe, yeah.
Yeah, why not? Tell me a little bit more about the tech detox process, because I think it's so interesting for someone like you who's so tech savvy and tech driven in your life and your business to see the need for that balance, which I think is affecting all of us. I mean, we have such tech rich lives. How do you suggest we go about that?
So, I think, for example, companies like Meta, Twitter, whatever, it wouldn't hurt if they say, like maybe our parents say when we are at home or whatever, say, hey, you have been using our app a lot. You exceeded the healthy 3-hour limit. Maybe you should stop. You know, what would they lose? Nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course you can question, advertising, revenue, whatever. But I feel that from an endurance perspective, long-term business scaling and endurance, these companies would endure more. And Apple is the only one that kind of does that in multiple times. They're like, you are exceeding your volume on your AirPods, or, this was your time consumption in these apps. Apple kind of like tries to bring a lot of that user awareness, but all the other companies know. And so one of the things I'm trying to implement, like the first time I tried my product, the metaverse, virtual worlds that we created, I was with my teammates and, trying the product. And I thought to myself, this is dangerous. Like, I know for a fact.
Really?
Yeah, when this becomes like a thing, people will live in these virtual worlds. Like, no question. Because it's so cool and comforting. And, people that don't have like the excitement for real life connections, they can really become someone inside of those virtual worlds. And so if you don't have, so the reason why I'm doing music also, and I'm putting music as the message to kind of like share what I believe in this world and, build a culture around my music. It's because I want my music to protect the tech side of things. You know what I'm saying? To give that humane, approach to the tech side of the world, right? And my product. And so one of the things I'm doing is like, I have a 4-hour limit for people to use the virtual worlds I'll be launching. So they don't over consume, you know what I'm saying? The virtual worlds. And, I think we will come to a world where you have like a bipolar approach, kind of like politics, where you have evil tech, let's put it that way. And evil tech, it's like, all you can eat, all you can drink, open 24/7 and save yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you'll have God tech or conscious tech where, it's much more conscious and, protects humans, and it's much more pro-human than actually destroying human spirit. I would say like that.
You put it in such an interesting way.
Thank you.
Because it is a big concern. We right now and in its infancy, we already see so many people attached to a device, and we can only imagine how much more it's going to grow if there really isn't that. And I love what you called it, that God tech, to remind us or to guide us. It could definitely be. It kind of reminds me of like an Isaac Asimov novel. How awful it could really get. So,
yeah, if you like just people watch sometimes, and you'll see that a lot of people don't smile, don't laugh throughout a day, and they only smile when they look at the phone. You know what I'm saying? And that's crazy, because it's like humans are not experiencing anymore the emotions that they should experience in real life. They experience a more variety of emotions online than actually in real life. And so when that happens, your digital persona becomes more interesting than your real life persona. Because, right, like imagine from an option of emotions, if you have like 5 emotions in real life and you have 30 emotions in the metaverse, you want to spend more time here because you are more alive here on this field, right?
Right.
And so that's a big problem, because people prefer to spend time on this online world.
Do you think we'll come to find a happy medium? Because, obviously the metaverse has so many things going for it, as far as, art and everything that it can benefit. But that, what you just mentioned, is a huge problem. Do you think we would be able to find a way to balance it all?
Honestly, if you zoom out from the universe perspective, it doesn't matter. Like we will always have, evil tech and a medium and a channel that will scale and grow and grow and grow and explode and create a huge collateral effect. And then a new channel emerges. And this new channel initially starts with good intentions, but maybe greed along the way takes over that channel. And then that channel becomes, malicious.
Yeah, the story of human nature.
That's how it works.
We always have to have a dragon to slay somewhere. Yeah.
Yin and the yang.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for such a thought-provoking conversation.
My pleasure.
Your first launch, not first launch, I'm sorry. Your launch for the first song will be December 16th.
Correct, yes.
Right? So make sure everybody to check it out and support.
Antonio Trincao. I need to change my username so it includes life now.
Yeah.
Because I need to change that.
Right.
Antonio
I'm sure
Trincao.
people they'll find you either way.
Yes.
Yeah. So we wish you a lot of success and we
Thank
hope
you so
to
much.
see you back.
Likewise.
And continue to enjoy your amazing music.
Thank you so much.
You're so talented.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And we'll see everyone else in a few minutes. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Miami Lit Podcast at the JCC Center with JADA Art. Our next guest is here. Erik, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're so happy that you're here. And we have so many questions because you are a pro in this whole crypto, Web3, NFT world. But before we dive in, do you want to take a second to introduce yourself and give us a deeper background?
Sure. So Erik Mendelson. I'm originally from New York City, but I moved to Florida about 15 years ago. So I'm like a true Floridian now. I call myself a recovering music executive because I started my whole career from the music industry and made my way into technology. Now I'm the director of blockchain technology for OneOf, which is a Miami-based company, one of the largest NFT marketplaces and strategy companies in the world for launching NFT projects. Additionally, I'm the #1 crypto real estate agent in America, and I just so happen to be based in Miami, which is the crypto hub of America. So that's a little bit of background on myself.
That's amazing. So, yeah, like I said, I have so many questions for you. There's so many misconceptions or assumptions about crypto and everything else, especially in the last couple of months. What do you have to say about all that? What advice would you have for someone that's thinking about starting to look into all this?
So there's a lot of benefits of having, blockchain is based around decentralized technology, and there are a lot of benefits for having a decentralized tech like blockchain. It allows individuals to custody their own assets. What that means is they have possession of their assets. And for most people that works okay, for those that understand how to custody their assets. But for 99.9% of the people in America, they enjoy having their money in a bank. They enjoy someone else taking care of those assets for them because it mitigates the risk that's involved with letting a third party control your money. So what happened in the crypto space was individuals were allowing so they thought these reputable companies to essentially custody their assets for them and hold their assets for them. And these companies were acting maliciously, using customer funds as a hedge fund, taking customer funds out of accounts, using it for investments. Basically, these decentralized companies, or these were centralized companies. Sorry, these companies were essentially using their clients' money in any way possible because there's very little regulation. And that's obviously extremely problematic. So in crypto, we have a saying called "not your keys, not your coins," or "not your keys, not your crypto." And what that means is you have a 16 or 24 word key seed phrase that unlocks your digital cryptocurrency wallet. It's essentially your bank account that you have control over. And when you go to a bank and you deposit money at the bank, they do a fractional reserve banking system. So for every dollar the bank takes in, they lend it out 10 times. That's why if we in America did a run on our banks, they wouldn't be able to match all of the depositors. Like if we all went to go withdraw our money in one day, it would be a catastrophe in America. And that's kind of what happened in the crypto space is people started getting nervous and tried to go make a run on the crypto exchanges and these crypto companies like Celsius and other lending platforms. And these companies were doing bad things with people's funds, to keep it simple. And they couldn't meet the depositors' request for withdrawals. And here we are, 5 to 7 of the largest, and there's going to be more, by the way, 5 to 7 of the largest companies in crypto have claimed bankruptcy. The individuals that are okay are those that understand how to custody their own assets and keep their own assets under their own control and not give up that control of that asset. Long-term vision of blockchain technology is here to stay. It's not going away. I'm going to show my age here a little bit. If in 1995, I never thought there'd be billions of people streaming music or content or what we're watching Netflix. The internet was, early technology that it would take 7 hours to listen to one song. And people are like, this isn't going to work. No one's going to listen to consume music or stream anything. Well, now this is how else are we consuming music and movies these days outside of these streaming platforms? So we're still very early on the technology. But I think the technology has a lot of, can solve a lot of pain points globally for the world and then more granularly for the music industry, which is where I come from.
Right. What would you say to those that had that experienced loss or had just an awful negative experience over the last couple of months and are just burnt by the whole thing?
Yeah, your rebound is going to be much better than your downfall. So
that's interesting.
You learn a lot more from failures and from things that happen negatively in your life. If everything is positive in your life, then you don't really understand what failure is. You don't really have a goal and an ambition to go to. I failed a lot of times in my life. Quite frankly, I have a good portion of my crypto holdings on platforms that went bankrupt. So I'm in that. Fortunately, I have I have multiple revenue streams and I'm financially okay. I didn't over leverage myself. There are a lot of people in the crypto community that over leverage themselves. They put all of their assets on one platform and you should never do that. Life goes on. It should never, being financially hurt should never be a reason why someone should cause harm to themselves. And unfortunately, there have been a lot of people in the community that have committed, not to go down a deep path, but have committed suicide or have harmed themselves physically because they can't tell their wife that they just lost their entire family's net worth, or the grandma that has, her pension savings on one of these platforms like FTX or Celsius, and it's now gone. There's sovereign wealth funds, the Singaporean sovereign wealth fund. Now, obviously, not all of their money, but they've been hurting this. Countries have been affected. Governments have been affected by what's happening in crypto. They're going to be okay, and I'm going to be okay. But the grandma who lost her entire pension may not.
Yeah, that's a sad, sad reality. How do you keep your positive attitude? How do you keep that mentality of where it's going to get better?
Because I've experienced extreme personal loss from my own, my family. My mother and my father passed away when I was pretty young. And I've had financial losses in my life, and I've been able to rebound every single time in a more positive manner of putting aside the family thing. It's just a part of life. You have to expect the curveball. And, when life throws something at you, you have to be able to pivot and adjust. And I'm really bullish on blockchain technology, and I believe that you and I and everyone listening are in the middle of the greatest financial time in the history of America in a positive way. Some people, like I said, are going to get hurt, but there's going to be a lot of people that do really, really well from what's happening from a technological standpoint, and I'm hoping to be on the right side of that doing right.
Me too. What do you think people can do to ensure that they're on the right side of things and experience as much success as they possibly can? Yeah.
Number one, keep a positive mindset in anything that you're doing. It may sound a little contrived, but whatever you wake up, whatever you're looking forward to the least on that day, the least doing on that day when you wake up, do that first, because then the rest of the day just goes by really easy. When you get the hard stuff out of the way first, Rest of the day just breezes by. And don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone and take risks for something that you may not understand or you think is too complicated to understand. That's usually what you probably want to try to learn. It's easy to keep doing the same things over and over and over again because you're used to it. It's really, really hard to challenge, to put yourself up to a mental challenge and say, I'm going to learn that today, even though it's really confusing. I was told about blockchain in 2012. And to me, I didn't even, it was too confusing, and I didn't want to. 4 years later in 2016, two or three people in my life came to me and started talking to me about this technology. And they were like, Erik, you're a smart guy. Just spend some time to really research it. I was like, I don't want to hear it. They're like, no, please, please. And I had two very powerful people in my life from different parts of my life talking to me about something during the same time period within a 2-week time period. So when smart people that I look up to, or you look up to, start to talk to you about something, I think it's important that we pay attention to it and take heed to their advice. And I did. And, you know, my life has dramatically changed financially, and emotionally from the technology that I discovered in 2016.
That's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. The first encounter with, I think it was Bitcoin. I remember it was very overwhelming, and I was like, I don't want to deal with this. So I kind of like left it off to my husband and let him figure it out. And I can totally relate to what you just said.
I think everyone feels that way. Even technologists, like who build technology and are developers, it's overwhelming to them.
Right, exactly. Let's talk about NFTs, because I want to say a year ago, it was all the rage, right? Everyone was all for it. And over the last couple of months, we've seen the wave of like, we knew it, this was nonsense, this doesn't work. Can you take us through that?
Yeah, sure. So the simplest way that I can explain NFTs are digital collectibles. Mm-hmm. And for the first time ever, because of blockchain technology, because the provenance is tracked on a blockchain, the history is tracked on the blockchain of that asset, we can actually assign scarcity to something digital, which we couldn't in the past. A lot of the cryptocurrency and NFT space comes from early adopters of video games. Back in the day, back in my day, people would play video games and they would win these digital assets, but they had that were worth something to other players because they wanted these features or these assets to play video games with, but they couldn't trade them. There wasn't an easy platform to trade these digital assets. There wasn't a marketplace for them. Fast forward here we are with cryptocurrency, where there's exchanges that we discussed, and there's better exchanges than what we discussed, where you have an instant liquid market for cryptocurrency. Same thing as with NFTs. So now the future gaming assets where people are playing games, like my son plays Roblox, for example, or Fortnite, and every week he's spending $100, $200 of daddy's money. I had to cut off the credit card, but I was like, Tristan, are these assets that you're buying in the game making you play better? He's like, no, daddy, my friends have it and I just want to be cool. So what's happening is the younger generation is FOMO. Right. But the younger generation, and I don't think this is the greatest thing in the world, but the younger generation, their digital personalities, their digital profile can sometimes be more important to them than their profile in real life. Now, I'm making sure my son doesn't fall into that bucket, but it is the harsh reality, and smart people pay attention to what's happening. So in the future, actually not even the future, what's happening now is that there's, decentralized games that are being created where these digital collectibles, which again can be scarce, can be traded on NFT marketplaces like one of, which I'm a company of. These digital assets can be traded. And when my son now plays these games and earns these assets, or when I buy him these assets, once he's done using these assets, he can then trade them to his friends or to someone else who wants those assets, creating a liquid market for digital collectibles. So I'm still really bullish on utilities for NFTs. I actually think that within the next 6 months to a year and a half, we won't be using the term NFTs anymore. Really? Because there's kind of a bad connotation to it. Like you said,
That's
people
true.
People were saying, we expected the NFT thing to crash. Digital collectibles on the blockchain is here to stay. It's going to keep iterating and it's going to keep iterating in what it does and what the utilities are. At first, they started off as just like cool pieces of art, and then they became a little bit something more than that. But in 2023, I think is going to be the year, once some regulation comes in and some frameworks come in because of what's happening in crypto, is going to be the year of the fractional NFT, where all this beautiful art that we see here at the JADA Art Fair, that we can, if someone can't afford a painting for $50,000, the creator of that artwork can sell 50,000 NFTs for $1 each, where each holder has $1 worth of that piece of art. Unfortunately, those 50,000 individuals can't take that art home with them. But if that art rises in value, and let's say it's now worth $100,000, that person who just bought that $1 NFT it's actually now worth $2. It's doubled in value. Of course, the art can go down in value. People don't typically, I guess a lot of people buy art for investment reasons, but I think that being able to fractionalize assets that aren't liquid, art is not a liquid asset. It takes a long time to sell a piece of art. It takes a long time to sell. It's not accessible to most people. And I think that NFTs will make fractionalizing everything from art to real estate to antique cars to anything collectible. I think the NFTs are going to hold a really important spot in that world in 2023 moving forward, once some more frameworks get put in place from a governmental standpoint.
Do you see the market coming back in 2023?
In what? Stocks, crypto, NFTs, or?
Sorry. I should have been more specific.
No worries.
And like the NFT side of things, crypto as a whole.
2024. So right. Bitcoin halves.
It's a little bit longer.
Yeah. Bitcoin halves in May of 2024. And what that does is it cuts the mining reward for miners who mine the computers that solve the code for executing transactions on the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain. The reward that those miners get for having their computers do that gets cut in half. So it reduces the selling pressure. And therefore, I believe that Bitcoin will go up. I mean, most people believe that Bitcoin will go up in value by May of 2024. But what has to happen first, because of what we discussed earlier with all these 5 to 7 companies ripping customers' funds off and going bankrupt, is that the governments are going to come in and they're going to put in a lot more rules and regulations in the space. And that's going to make a lot more institutional buyers come into the space who have stayed off because there's really no regulation, because it's the wild, wild west. And you're going to see a lot of the bigger, the multi-billion-dollar funds come in and start to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum as a hedge. And that's when you're going to see the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum, in my opinion, not financial advice, go up in value. So I think the regulation will probably come in around the tail end of 2020, third quarter, fourth quarter of 2023, leading up to the Bitcoin halving in May of 2024. Again, really not financial advice. Please do your own research.
Right. But that sounds very reasonable. How do you feel about regulations coming into the crypto space?
That's a really good question. I love the technology because it was kind of like the wild west.
That's what attracted so many of us to it. It felt so freeing.
Yeah. It felt freeing until you tried to start a company in America based around cryptocurrency, and you realized that the only people that were making real money were the lawyers, and that you had to go essentially offshore or off seas to create your company. And I think that that's where our politicians, one of the places where our politicians went really, really wrong, is allowing these amazing entrepreneurs, like Sam Bankman-Fried, who is the CEO of FTX, who's the most hated man in crypto right now. He could have been an amazing entrepreneur, but he had to go overseas, and he, of course, ripped off people and didn't really know what the heck he was doing for a certain time period. But point is that, and that's just one example, there's a lot of really, really amazing entrepreneurs that are living off our shores and are creating this amazing technology because of the lack of regulation in America. So where I was really against regulation, I love the wild, wild west. I mean, there's like tens of billions of dollars of assets have been stolen from consumers. The vast majority of the consumers are American citizens. I don't want that to happen. I don't want, grandma's pension fund to be stolen from. I mean, that's just awful. So, I think that some regulation has to come in, but I think that a whole new set of frameworks have to be established. They use archaic frameworks that were not ready for the type of technological innovation that we see happening right now. And the frameworks, the Howey test is the one that everyone mentions. Frameworks like the Howey test and others, it has to change as it relates to digital assets. It can't just stay the same. So, fan of regulation, as long as it changes with the technology and they don't stick to these archaic frameworks that they have in place right now.
Yeah, I like the way you put it. Definitely food for thought, because my first reaction when regulations are brought up is no. they're going to mess it up even more. But the way you explained it, I can definitely see why there needs to be room for something like that.
The institutional players, the real money, won't come into the space until there's that.
Right.
So we need some more regulation. We need good regulation. We need smart people to make the laws, not the individuals we have right now. Although there's a few out there I like.
What advice do you have for artists entering the NFT space?
Don't look at NFTs as a cash grab or a money grab, which is how it was looked at initially. Mm-hmm. It's an extension of your brand and your digital identity, and you should take it really seriously and focus on building a community. That's the first thing. Before you sell anyone anything, it's about building a community. Having built, you have to have a community that believes in you, because you can be an artist out there and release an NFT that no one cares about if you don't have a community. Right. Community, I guess, is a cool, fancy way of saying a fan club, but really it's just people that believe in you, believe in your vision. Supporters. Exactly. Absolutely. So they believe in you. They want to rally behind you. And then once you build a community, you can kind of figure out what like utilities and perks you can offer with your NFT collection, or maybe it could just be you're just a graphic artist or a digital artist and you just want to create some amazing art. That's cool. That's cool also, but you have to build a community before you can sell them anything. And really you shouldn't be thinking about, if you're starting off your NFT collection, like how can I sell this? You're going about it the wrong way. Just think about building a community, which is easier said than done. It takes time, but if you're in the right rooms, if you're in the right rooms, you can find 100 fans or 1,000 fans to support you. And in this space, that's all you really need. You know, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which everyone talks about, there's only like, I think 3,000 or something unique holders of the Bored Apes. Mm-hmm. There's not millions of people that own Bored Apes, which is what makes it special also. So think about that. You can have a really robust community. And if money is a goal, make a lot of money with just 3,000 people. So go find your 3,000 people. Go find your first 100 people. Then go find your next 1,000 people, because those first 100 people will get you the next 1,000 people, and those next 1,000 people will get you the next 1,000,000 people.
That's very sound advice. Thank you. Because I mean, obviously I'm not an artist, but a lot of my friends who are, I know it's very overwhelming for them to enter the space. And it just seems like there's so much going on and such high stakes of loss and creativity put in.
For independent musicians, it's a lot easier to get 100 to 1,000 fans on digital media than sell 100 or 1,000 tickets to your show. So
that's true.
They can pick their battles. An artist, music artists right now are essentially like mini marketing agencies, mini brand agencies. A lot of them don't want to do it. They just want to play the guitar. They just want to create, rap or sing. And they think that that's all. It's changed. It's not the 70s, 80s or 90s anymore. Now artists have to be thinking like they're little businesses that are operating and operate in that manner. Right.
Can we talk about real estate and crypto?
Yeah.
Which seems like two terms that we would never hear come together. Yeah. Right?
Right.
So what does that even mean? Let's start at the most basic.
So I'm a licensed real estate agent. I've had my license. Like 70 bazillion people in Miami who are realtors. You could throw a baseball and hit 500 realtors. Even if there's 400 standing around, you'll still somehow hit 500 people. Got my real estate license around, 12, 13 years ago. Didn't really use it because I'm an executive in the crypto blockchain space and I've been in it for a while. I know a lot of C-suite level executives. I know a lot of people in the space. Start of COVID, I started seeing people from New York, people from San Francisco, people from LA moving here. And a lot of those people were coming from the technology industries for various reasons. Obviously, no state income tax, beautiful climate, open political stance on business, pro-business, a lot of other reasons. And they're all from the crypto community. And because I'm a trusted member, like I said, I have my community, because I'm a trusted member of the community, and some of them knew that I had a real estate license. They were like, Erik, I'm worth 40 million in Bitcoin. Just a true story. Not me. One day, hopefully. I'm worth 40 million in Bitcoin. And I walked into my bank this morning to get a mortgage and they wouldn't offer me a mortgage. I said, that's crazy. Why? He goes, well, I haven't had a job. I don't have any income coming in. So they're not, the banks are going to look at me like, how am I going to afford this mortgage? I'm like, well, then you tell them you're worth 40 million in Bitcoin. They're like, the banks don't want to hear that I'm worth 40 million in Bitcoin. They don't speak in Bitcoin. They only speak in dollars. So he goes, can you help me out? So I did what every Miami real estate agent did, and I completely lied. I said, of course I can help you out. I didn't have a clue how I was going to
figure it out later type of thing.
One of those things, because I didn't want to lose him as a client. So got another client shortly thereafter that was worth around 20 to 30 million in Bitcoin. He was having the same trouble. So now I had two clients that were net worth of $70 million in Bitcoin. And I started calling banks and trying to talk to them to convince them to give my clients a mortgage, and they wouldn't. This is before I even found them a property. And then I sat down with one bank, and they're like, Erik, we just can't do it. So I looked at the owner of the bank and I said, do you really want these individuals who are worth 70 million in Bitcoin? They're not asking to buy $60 million in property. Like, they're not over leveraging what they have. They're looking to buy a few $1,000,000 each of whatever property. Like, if Bitcoin goes to, if their value drops 98% overnight, they have enough money to cover the mortgage. Are you really? And I had to talk them through, like, these are not drug dealers. Like, they had all the old school concepts of what like Bitcoin and crypto is. I'm like, these are technologists. I said, these are some of the best technologists in the world, quite frankly. And I convinced the bank to give my clients an 80% loan to value mortgage. So what that means, for those that don't know, if the property is worth $1 million, the banks would give my clients anywhere from 65 to 80% loan to value. So they give them $650,000 to $800,000 loan or mortgage on that $1 million property, without my clients having to show any proof of income, which is a no documentation loan, a non-conforming loan, non-QM loan. And the interest rate was higher because the banks looked at it as a risk, the riskiest type of loan, even though the clients were worth a lot of money. So banks would offer these mortgages to my clients. My clients were obviously very happy. So they were getting traditional 30-year mortgages. The bank would take first lien position on the property. For the remaining 20 or 25 or 30% down on the property, my clients could do one of three things. They could put cash down, which they didn't want to do. They can sell their Bitcoin, which they didn't want to do. Why do you think they didn't want to sell their Bitcoin or their crypto?
I don't know.
I put you on the spot. There's three reasons. The main reason is taxes.
Right.
So when your Bitcoin appreciates in value, you pay a 30% capital gains tax approximately if you hold it for less than a year, if you hold the asset for less than a year. If you hold that asset for longer than a year, you're paying like, I think 15% capital gains tax. Consult with your CPAs who's listening. So whenever you use crypto for anything, whether it's buying a banana, a haircut, or property, if it's gone up in value, you pay a capital gains tax. So that $1 million property, if they use their Bitcoin to buy the property, they'd be paying $1.3 million for that house. So they don't want to do that. That's number one. Number two, a lot of my clients are crypto OGs. They've been in it for a while. It's sentimental to them. They never want to sell the asset. So they come to me to figure out strategies so that they don't have to sell the asset. And these are individuals that also custody their own crypto. They're not holding it in a third party exchange or marketplace where it can get hacked or stolen, or where they could steal it. And the other reason why they don't want to use their Bitcoin to buy properties, because they believe in the long-term value of it. Whether it's 50,000, 100,000, or 20,000, or 18,000, or whatever it sits at today, they don't care. They believe in 3 to 5 years, it's going to be the most valuable asset that they own, more valuable than real estate. They also believe that the asset will go up quicker in a shorter amount of time than whatever property they buy. So if property goes up 10% next year, they believe that their Bitcoin will go up 20%. So they're not going to ever sell that asset. So what we did was they would collateralize the crypto. So they would take a loan out against that asset. And that space has only been around since about 2018, where there's a few crypto lending. Some of them have gone bankrupt, I'm not going to lie. And some of the biggest ones have gone bankrupt, but there's a few other crypto lending platforms out there that would actually lend on that asset. So if my clients in that previous $1 million example, if they need $200,000 as a deposit, they would have to give 2-to-1 collateral to the lending platform. 400,000 in Bitcoin, they would get a $200,000 in mortgage. And what's great is when they pay that loan off with the crypto lending company, they get the Bitcoin back at whatever the price is. So so if I give you 20 Bitcoin today, I get my 20 Bitcoin back when I pay the loan back at whatever price it is. So it allows my clients to hold that asset. Hopefully it appreciates, and then they get that appreciable value back to them once they pay off the loan, and they have their property, which, quite frankly, since I've done a bunch of transactions, I've done over $20 million in transactions. All their assets have gone up in value also. So it's a really win-win strategy for my clients.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they use one asset to buy another asset, and they keep the first asset. That's what rich people do. They borrow against assets in real estate, and they keep buying other assets in real estate, and they borrow against it. Obviously, in down markets, That's not the greatest thing that can happen to these. And if they're over leveraged, like not being over leveraged is, I think, the key to financial success and for creating generational wealth for individuals, families.
That's so interesting how all of that came about, because you would never think, right? But I can see how it could present itself as a problem for these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also a problem when they over leverage. If they've taken out a loan against all of their crypto holdings and then Bitcoin goes down in value, they have to, the crypto lending platforms have a margin call. And then my clients have to meet the obligation and pay the loan back up to the 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 margin. If they don't have the Bitcoin, these companies are going to start selling off their Bitcoin. So I advise my clients, again, don't over leverage your assets.
Yeah.
You know, if you're worth 20 million in Bitcoin, go buy a house that's 10 or 20% of that value. Don't go get 60% or 50% or more of that value. Because when the market turns, you're gonna be like, how can I afford to pay for this?
Yeah. So you're such a wealth of information. I feel like you should have some sort of course for us.
We didn't even go through, before the interview, you didn't even ask. I am releasing a cryptocurrency transaction masterclass.
Well, that was going to be my last question was, do you have any future plans that you can share with us?
Yeah. So I was speaking with the mayor's attorney at a private dinner few weeks ago, and he was like, and I'm friends with the mayor, who I love, by the way. And he was like, Erik, you need to teach all, the 65,000 Miami has the biggest real estate board in America, by the way.
Right.
He was like, you have to teach these other realtors how to do this. And I was like, well, his name's Jeremy. I was like, Jeremy, why would I do that? I was like, I'll cannibalize my business if I teach other people how to do it. He's like, well, then just create a course and make money that way. And I was like, ding. He said this to me over a year ago, and I procrastinated, but I actually started shooting the content last week. I have the whole course done. I have to go shoot my swipe up, swipe up, all the douchebag stuff. Like, hey, swipe up, look at my course. So I'm gonna do that soon.
Congratulations on that. I mean, I can totally see it because you have a way of really explaining it that is so digestible and easy to grasp.
I like to talk to people like how I understand things, which is from a complete layman's perspective. I can get really technological. I can get really like nerdy with you, but the vast majority of your listeners probably wouldn't understand if I get really nerdy because I didn't understand it early on. So I like to keep things simple.
Right. Well, my final question this time, what role do you see art taking on in this Web3 space in the upcoming years?
You said art?
Yes, art. To bring it back to the reason why we're all here today.
The biggest promise for, I guess, NFTs as it's related to art is that artists are able to continuously get royalties from the sale of their works. So a Basquiat that sells today, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't believe that the estate of Basquiat's estate gets a piece of the art when it keeps reselling. But this technology allows artists, like graphic artists, creative artists, to get royalties in perpetuity for their works that they can then pass on to their families, their heirs, and their estates. What if something was to happen to them? Coming from the music industry, which is a very opaque, non-transparent industry, where they literally use strategic financial accounting to rip off artists. That's really why I got into the blockchain space, because I didn't want I didn't want any artists getting ripped off. I wanted them just to get don't pay them more than they're worth. Don't pay them less than they're worth. Just make sure that whatever they work for, that they get compensated for. And the music industry has historically not done that. They rip off artists. I'm not sure how it is in the traditional art space, with relationships with galleries or whatnot. So I'm not qualified to speak on that. But again, just like with music artists, I think that blockchain can be a digital brand extension for traditional artists. So do your traditional art. Don't stop doing that, but also have a little strategy for getting into the digital space.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us.
Thanks.
Your expertise, and we hope to see you soon, to have you back.
So please follow One of NFT on all on all the social platforms. That's the NFT platform that I head up business development for, and my social media accounts are Erik Answerman, so ErikAnswerman on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, and we'll have a link down below when this episode gets re-released, because right now we're live, but we will also be re-releasing the episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. And I have a very special team with me right now. I'm so excited that I get to talk to you all. Welcome to your own space.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
a beautiful day in Miami.
Absolutely. And well, before we dive into what you created here, do you want to take a second to introduce yourselves?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm Dana Blickensderfer, co-founder of JADA Art Organization, artist for over a decade. I've been showing personally in Miami Art Week for over 10 years now, and then we started JADA Art Fair this is our 4th year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is our co-founder JÓNATAS. Do you want to say hi next?
Sure. I'm JÓNATAS, a co-founder of JADA with Dana Blickensderfer. And I am a visual artist. I'm a scholar, a published author. I'm mostly a painter, but I truly love to play with installation and performance, especially on video. So that's the short intro.
That's good stuff. You got to check it out.
That I did not know. Wow.
It's fun when you need to get out of the painterly kind of mindset. Yeah.
Right.
And I'm Samuel Loetscher. I do communications for JADA. I kind of come from a background of journalism and event management, and actually met Dana and JÓNATAS when they were putting together the first JADA Art Fair back in 2019. Because I was commissioned to write articles on them, and then it just kind of snowballed into what we got going on now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's cool. That's true.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's all true.
It is all. Yeah. It's very
Full
exciting.
circle.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Well, I want to congratulate you all for the amazing work you've done here this weekend. This is absolutely beautiful here at the JCC. And like I touched upon a little earlier with a previous guest, you guys have really shown art as a way to really connect to our roots.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I love so much about art. Was that a driving force for you this year?
I believe it has always been the driving force for JADA. I think one of the most important things about JADA is that we work through a structure of feelings. We're metamodernists, so we really try to find ways to resolve many of our multi-generational problems. So when we bring in heritage and identity, is a way to process who we are. Dana and I have done this ourselves as artists, so it just became natural for us to open up the invitation to include others.
Yeah, art has always been the thing that brings us together.
Yeah.
And it over time has blossomed into, writers, creatives of all walks of life. But art was the foundation. It's always the pivotal language that brings us together.
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely. Sam, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would just want to add, we're really excited to be here at the JCC this year. The past 3 years, we were at this location in North Beach on Normandy Isle, which it's really amazing if anyone who's been with us all 4 years now to see the evolution and the progress. What started as it was just an abandoned blue sky. Anyone from Miami knows what a blue sky is. This big, 5,000 square foot space that just, Dana and JÓNATAS first dared to kind of create into this art fair. At first, it didn't even have any gallery walls. And, the second year we got these gallery walls up and it just kept growing and growing. And now we've left that space and we're now down here in Mid Beach on Pine Tree Drive, right next to the Fountain Blue. It's
amazing.
By
right
the
in the heart of the
yacht
action. Yeah.
We got a lot of yachts right behind us.
Yeah.
Very important to mention.
2 blocks from the beach. 10 miles from Fountain Blue. So we're blessed to be right in the heart of everything.
Yeah. We're very happy. And the truth is this, we just came out of Paris Art Week. So we are really a bunch of artists doing the things we love. And to be able to occupy these spaces it seems to be spaces of privilege, but the truth is we don't come from that kind of a structure. We simply put a lot of effort. We tell the community why we should be there, and we find sponsors and supporters, and we bring a lot of meaning to the practice of art, and that's how we've been given opportunities that are quite valuable. That's why we're here, and that's why in Paris it's the same thing, and anywhere anybody says, "Hey, come here because we need something that's real, that's raw," we'll be there.
That's beautiful. How would you describe the fair this year?
You can start with that one.
I start with that.
Yeah.
Sam, please take over.
The fair this year, I mean, one of the main differences from previous fairs that we've done, I think, is, we're upgraded, we're sleek. We got, like, Dana and I were laughing,
Got
like, when we
mics.
first got this place, we were like, oh my gosh, Wi-Fi. We have Wi-Fi.
Bathrooms
There's
at work.
mics.
There's AC.
I didn't sweep the floor this year.
No
I'm-
sweeping the
yeah.
floor.
Talk about a startup. We started from nothing. So the little blessings is what is getting us so excited about.
Mm-hmm. And it's great. And, being at the JCC has provided us with the opportunity to, build community with so many people we might not have had at the fairs in previous years. A lot of people who were big sponsors of the JCC came out, people who are members of the JCC. This is a community center, right? So this building's alive beyond just like the art fair. There's people coming by for, their dance classes or whatever it is, tutoring, whatever they may be doing at the JCC. And then they see the art fairs going on and they come see and learn more about JADA. And it's a beautiful thing. One thing I'll always say about JADA is, although, we do art fairs in Miami and Paris, we've always, like, wherever we go, I think we've always made a really great effort at tapping into the local community wherever the fair is happening. Yeah.
That's a good point.
That's a very good point.
And then do you want to mention the theme of what was represented versus the other years?
Yeah, I think in terms of theme, what we could say is that, see, I kind of want to deviate from that a tiny bit, because there's a lot going on in our country in terms of anti-Semitism right now. Pop culture is embracing anti-Semitism, and a lot of people are being very vocal against it, right? They're really rising up. And it's not about you being of a Jewish background, but you knowing that it's not okay to persecute people, to point out people, to single out people for who they are, whether you're Latino, black, white, straight, homosexual, it doesn't matter, right? And at this very moment, there's a curtain rise of anti-Semitism. So being at the JCC, the Jewish Community Center, sometimes we have to remind people, this is the Jewish Community Center. It's a big statement. It's a big statement that America, at the end of the day, comes together to embrace the others, right? The other with capital O. And here we met a lot of people at our opening night who were Holocaust survivors. One of the sponsors of this building, who built the main gallery, she said, if I were your age, I would be out there marching. So she survived a few pogroms, let's put it that way, genocide attempts, on herself and on her family, in her community. So it's quite important that we highlight that aspect. It's not an accident that we're here. We looked for opportunities in spaces that would appreciate the fact that we're talking about the identity. In terms of an actual theme, we have a title. It's called As Above, So Below. And that can be interpreted in so many ways. This is a very old saying. It's been embraced by many different groups, societies, fraternities, secret societies even. But for us, we're applying this in a very basic way. We're venturing into the metaverse. The metaverse is connected to the cloud. The cloud is above. We're all here showing physical art because we're not abandoning that. We value getting dirty. We value the imperfections of handmade art, whatever style you choose, whatever genre you like. Yet, we want to explore, very excited about this new continent that has been discovered, the metaverse. We're really, in a way, being explorers of that. And so we're connecting the cloud to the earthly, the above to the below. We're connecting the digital, the virtual, to the down and dirty. And that's what it is. There's a more profound meaning to all of this, but I want to keep it, to this level because it's fun to be at this level.
And then just to comment on that, when you were having your talk with Didi, right? Is that how you say it?
Yes.
And you talked about defending. Do you think a lot of the work is going to go away and not be traditional paintings and fine art? So I thought that was good because you guys were both talking casually about it. And you're like, I hope it doesn't go away, right? So we're here to defend, that it is here and it's not going away. And we're actually blending both the cloud, the metaverse, the NFTs, and the physical.
Yeah.
Because they so much need each other.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I think you both brought up so many amazing points, starting with what you said initially about what we're seeing now and in pop culture, on the news and everything, this anti-Semite sentiment that's been floating around, which is, it almost doesn't feel real that in this day and age we are hearing and having to have those kind of conversations. Right. Yeah. And when all this was going on, I had that thought like, wow, how crazy, right?
Yeah.
God, the universe, that how does it all work that here we are showing this kind of art with this kind of message in this community where they need to hear now more than ever.
Exactly.
We're here to support you.
Yeah.
I think that's just amazing.
It is. Just this morning, I was one of my college friends. She happens to be of a Jewish background. She wrote on her story saying, I've been out of social media for a while, past 2 weeks, because I'm just in shock. I couldn't even speak about what's happening right now. So she just wrote a little note to say, I'm fine, but if you know somebody who belongs to the community, reach out to them, but they might not be okay. They're very scared. You saw it in books. You heard it from people saying, hey, it creeps up on you. And when you at least realize you're already, in deep trouble because of, bigotry, hatred. And I think we have to pay attention and we have to, again, hold hands. We're all sons and daughters of the same creator. We're all inhabitants of the same planet. And it's just time to say, it's not okay to say those things. It's not okay to voice this kind of hatred. And JADA Art Fair has been doing that for so long, but in a natural way. We're not waving new flags. It's just that it's the way, I would say, our generation, and I would say that that's not an age thing. It's a mental state, because we do have people of all ages and backgrounds. We understand that it is just better to mingle, to appreciate. And we have always, the three of us especially, have always been reaching out. If we have a lot of, let's say we're doing something with the Jewish Art Salon, one of our partners, or the Jerusalem Biennale, we'll say, you know what? Maybe we need some Iranians involved. Let's bring in some Muslim voices.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's an opportunity. Let's bring them together because they need to come together. And
that was very much a presence in Paris during Paris Art Week.
In Paris Art Week, we chanted "Women Love Life" for the Iranian women. We showed their works on the DL, because if their government knew what they were showing in Paris, they themselves would be in trouble.
Yeah, they specifically didn't want their name. So it's an interesting that we're dealing, every day we're going through these conversations and trying to bring a voice to, such a...
Yeah, the voiceless right
Exactly.
now, unfortunately.
And it's such an opportunity. I don't mean to speak too much about this, but it's an art fair during Miami Art Week. All eyes are on us. Use it to go beyond the commercial.
Yeah.
It's not so difficult. You can do it all, by the way. You can have the bling and the meaning.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I just want to add, not to dwell on this too much, but, while we're on the topic of anti-Semitism, I mean, we're at the JCC after all. I really think now it's more important than ever to really repudiate anti-Semitism, everyone in their own lives personally, whenever you see it. Because one thing I find very alarming is you see it coming from both sides of the political spectrum now. There's this kind of like like Charlottesville, Tiki Torch protesters, Jews will not replace us kind of anti-Semitism, which is maybe more of like what we hear from like a Kanye West.
Sure.
But then you also have this anti-Semitism that's really like rooted in
Anti-Israel.
Anti-Israel,
occupation.
exactly.
Yeah.
That you get on the
From
left. So, you know, when those two things are rising on both sides, like someone has to stand in the middle and say, listen, like you can't let it slide. So, you know, whether it's, you know, in your personal relationships, like just talking with your friends and family and you hear something a little off color, like dig into it. Like, why are you saying that? Why do you feel that way?
That's a really
you
good
know,
point.
because these kinds of misunderstandings are what
That's where
we're
it
talking
all
about. We had a
starts,
Holocaust
right?
survivor here at the gallery opening night. This is
Exactly.
very recent history.
It's
you know?
extremely recent.
Yeah.
That's a really good point to like, what can we do, right? Or sometimes we get lost. Like, I'm only one person.
Oh,
You know,
thank you so much.
we were meeting that lady. She was like, I would be picketing with signs and,
Yeah.
you know, but just having these conversations. And he said, if you hear someone joking around, you say, hey, that's not really funny.
Yeah.
And then correct it. They may feel uncomfortable, but that's where the conversations start, and that's how you make change.
Yeah.
I think, Sam, you bring up such a good point because it really is, it feels like it's coming from all sides.
Mhm.
So that it makes it that much more important.
Yeah.
You know, but to bring it back to the theme of the art fair, as you mentioned earlier, as above, so below, I want to talk a little bit about the Web3 aspect of the art fair because it's so special what you all did here, and so interesting that you brought it to us here in Miami and to a community that maybe hasn't really, hasn't really gone into those spaces.
Yeah.
How has that experience been for you?
Go ahead, please.
Well, we're proud to say we're the first art fair in Miami Art Week. That's the Metaverse Art Fair.
Yeah.
We are powered by Lands, which is a major contributor, collaborator this year, where our artworks housed in their mansions or their museum space in the metaverse. And so that's just been such an exciting conversation because I think COVID brought a great opportunity when you had those viewing rooms, and it created that like it was a great opportunity to now people understand Zoom and go online. Everyone's on their apps. They're utilizing it more and more. They're not meeting in person. Let's just do Zoom still. It's more of it's a habit now. So we're using that as a way now that COVID's over to say, okay, come in person and then we'll take you into the metaverse because it's such a new conversation. It's confusing. Where do you start? What does that even mean? Okay, well, come to us. We'll put the headset on, or we can walk you through the app. We can show you in real time how it works. And that's how we're starting, with one person at a time that comes here and taking them physically in a virtual environment. And it's kind of fun because it's like the opposite, but that's how we're keeping the conversation and the education of it going.
Yeah. So what Dana said is exactly, let's say, the driving force, you know, this kind of intention, and also introducing people who would otherwise not even know what anything means. They might not be followers of this kind of information, right? The channels, they don't have the channels to reach out to study. But I think one of the most important conceptual aspects of this is JADA defends bringing art to the center of the conversation, you know, and what we're learning over the years now that we've been doing this together is you really have to walk the walk. So if we're preaching that art should occupy the center of conversations in society, then we really have to make that leap and try to do so. So we talk about, you know, the Renaissance, when the arts promoted empirical observation, and then that way people were able to tap into new realms in physics and philosophy and all kinds of things, discoveries that were incredible because the artists were being aggressive. So at this very moment, I certainly believe that it's a moment ripe for art to be brought back to the center of the conversation. If artists don't do so, then commerce will, the market will, and there's no problem with that. And we want to partner with the market. We're not against the market at all. But the meaning, the intention, I believe the artists must fight quite hard to have that first voice, to set the tone. So we're venturing into that. I'm not from a tech background, but through togetherness, through collaboration, then we meet lands. We create the new royals as a
NFT
fraternity,
club.
an NFT based fraternity, a club. We then each one of these groups, they have their own teams of geniuses, and that's how we're able to create something that's impressive. And that's all. That's all. We're learning as we're going, and it's working.
And I think it's important to, being in the tech space, to make it frictionless for the end user, right? Because it's such a new conversation. So we kind of not dumb it down, but we make it keep it simple, stupid, right? Where we're just trying
User-friendly.
user friendly, where you just go on our website, you hit a button really big, and you can walk into the room and you can use your mouse, or you can use the headsets, but we know people don't have Oculuses at their disposal. So we have a station set up so you can experience not only, all the senses of it yourself, but you can also go on the web, on the phone or on the computer and just hit a button. Yeah. So we have all the different variations of how to, keep the conversation and the topic going, to we're excited about it. And we know it's a great platform for the voices to continue to have conversations. And that's why we want to be right in there.
100%.
And I want to let the record show that years ago, before anyone was talking about metaverse or NFTs, JADA, and in particular Dana, were really like ahead of the curve with these already like thinking about the future VR viewing rooms going in there before anyone was talking about any of this.
Cool.
Yeah, like back in like 2018, Dana was already doing it. Yeah.
We would do these virtual
visionary.
We would do these virtual art shows because I moved from New York. I went to the New York Studio School, and I moved and I plot myself in St. Petersburg. So I didn't have that community. I felt disconnected from that raw, critiques, that artistic influence in your daily life. So I was like longing for that. So I was like, so that's when I like hybrided some different platforms. Like you got Skype over here, you got Twitch, you've got all these different things. And we shared our screen, and we were basically in other people's virtual VR rooms doing art shows. And then we would stream them on YouTube. Yeah. It was fun because we did several of those, and then COVID happened. And then the funny part is I didn't do them during COVID because we were trying to build an app. Yeah. But then we're here now, and we're partnered with Lands, right? So everything happens for a reason. But yeah, that was way before all of it.
That's so interesting. Yeah. You guys were ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and it was cool because we piloted maybe 20
it's on record
VR shows on our YouTube channel. And it was cool because our friends and our artist friends that I was trying to connect with, it started with just trying to bridge the gap between not being in New York physically, and they were like, oh yeah, but now that COVID, it created an opportunity for everyone understands, and they value that now.
Yeah. And something I want to mention, and JADA is a manifesto-based art collective. So we're really serious about where we stand. Now, we're malleable as well. We can change the manifesto. We're not creating a religion here. It's something that if we learn, we can add that to the guiding lights, So the pandemic happened. We felt that we could not connect with one another. We felt lonely. We felt disconnected 100%. And all of a sudden, through these programs that we put together, we were having incredible conversations. Yeah. And we would always make it a point that you have to be either drinking wine or coffee. Yeah. So it was so
it was fun,
great.
And we didn't charge any artists. We just wanted to bring people together and have these shows, and whoever wanted to be in it could be in it.
Yeah. So the idea of togetherness is really central to JADA. And then the idea of vulnerability, meaning we don't really know what we're doing, but we're going to do it.
Together.
Yeah, together. If
the
we
metaverse?
look bad, we all look bad.
Yeah.
So
well, it looks like you know a thing or two.
We've been learning.
Look at what you've accomplished.
Thank you. It's also with like a team. You said with Sam and Eros and Hugo. We've got so many different partners that we, great minds get together and we have a passion for the arts
Yeah.
and for culture and connection and creativity. And that's what brings us all together. It's an important part of everyday life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's what drives us forward. Right. What was your favorite response to the Web3 gallery so far?
Well, the opening night, we had this man. How old was he? That was your favorite part.
That was my favorite.
He was
part.
over 70 and he put on the Oculus and then he didn't know he was about to hit that TV real fast. So we
it got a little scary for a second.
We needed like a tot to yank him back. We're like, wait. And then he didn't realize all of his senses would be in it.
But it was so amazing to watch
that was
him.
fun. He like screamed like he was on a roller coaster. It was that was my favorite part.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got any other encounters.
I agree. I mean, seeing people try VR for the first time is always hilarious. I actually once upon a time used to work for Oculus, and it was I would teach people how to give demos back when like it was still like new to the market.
That's awesome.
So I saw so many people try. Yeah, that was back in 2018. Wow. Yeah. And I would see so many people try Oculus for the first time, and it's a little disorienting at first, and it's always really fun when we have an older friend try it out too.
Well, that's also why it was so important to not only just have the headset, but to have the environment where they don't have that, because we don't want to cause any injuries or anyone to get sick or nauseous. So we have both, right? Because we understand that's a huge element where they get scared and they walk into things. We don't want to break any glass. So we have ways that you can experience it just normally too.
Yeah. And concerning Web 3.0 that you brought up, I think one of the things that we forget to mention is that Web 3.0 is really the content creator's web, right? So if we start using that terminology a lot more, then we're really telling the artist, this is your web. You're not a product. Mm-hmm. You're not a product. This is not Web 1.0 or 2.0. It's your time, but you must, build your authority, which means if you don't learn it yourself, at least have the right partners to make things happen with you.
Right. And I don't know if Sam wants to comment on this, but I've noticed with the Web 3.0 conversation through NFTs, it's because of the communities that form through Discord and other opportunities that forge this power behind it that's keeping the force going. So it's not just one person. It's you see a community of people interested, and that's organically beautiful to watch. And I think that's a big part of Web 3.0 that I haven't seen in a connection.
Yeah, and something, especially I don't think we're seeing it as much this year with a lot of the turbulence with cryptocurrencies and everything. But last year especially, it was really like the NFT cryptocurrency takeover of Art Week. And every single party was like a different like Discord server come to life. You know what I mean? It was like, or like Twitter page.
Blue people walking around. Those are characters in there.
I forgot about those.
We had some of them come to the gallery last year too, and it was really great to learn about the little like communities or big communities even in some places that they're building around their NFTs, and that's what we're trying to do with the new Royals now.
Yes.
You want to talk about the new Royals for a little bit?
Sure. The new Royals is just another branch. We are all working towards really. It's a fraternity. Uses NFTs as one of the ways to bring people together. The way you enter the club, the collectors club, there are many ways. As soon as you have an NFT, which varies in price, some of them are even given away for free. Like tonight, if you come to the party,
come to our after party.
Our after party, we'll
after
have
dark. Art after dark.
Art after dark, and it's just a way to get into the club. And what the club is, we want to share collaborations. We want to share ways to grow together. We want to talk about different projects, and the reason why it's called the New Royals. Symbolically, we want to say that we're all royals in exile. There's a term that's we borrowed from Babylonian Jewry, which is that there's the house of the head of the house of David, King David, is always out there. They don't have a palace anymore. They don't have a kingdom, but they always know who the king or queen should be. So we're all exilarchs, monarchs in exile. We all are. Symbolically speaking, we can all embrace this idea. And we might lose our crown, we might lose our palace, we might lose our titles, but the nobility of heart and spirit is within ourselves. And that is what we want to inspire, and we aspire to live by those principles. So we write about it. So the fraternity has different levels. It's truly a multi-level fraternity kind of thing. And you unveil through the NFTs. And once you unveil a certain level, you learn a certain principle about ennoblement of the heart and spirit. That's all that it's all about. So it's one more attempt to bring meaning into the NFT world. So whenever people talk about, is NFT, is it a scam? Well, this is one of the ways to show, well, we're not using it for the wrong purpose. We're using it for kind of a lofty purpose here, We're trying our very best. The new Royals is counts with the collaboration of a team in Brazil, Thiago Guimarães, TG7. They do a lot of the marketing, the visuals. JADA, Dana and her team. She has her own company, iBoss Productions, right? And she comes in with her team and help. I myself have been making most of the artwork. The people who are the leaders of this, they end up having their own busts, and they choose what kind of a emperor, queen, or king they would like to be, from which area or era of humanity, and then I draw them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have my
the work
own.
is all here.
So anyone can join?
Yeah.
Of course. There are ways to join. There are ways for you to have your own bust. There's a way for you to join a royal house. And we do this the real way. There's some funny things. I became a chief herald, actually recognized by the Portuguese and Brazilian royal families.
Oh, wow.
So that we can do this. It's a play. It's really, in a way, we're having fun. But we mix reality with fantasy in a beautiful way, very philosophical.
Yeah.
And we have lands. And lands is giving us the environment where we can build this palace.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add? There's so much going on with that.
Well, I think what's cool about the new Royals that is different from what I've seen online and in other communities is, obviously the main connection is talking on Discord. But as you can see, we're talking about empowering yourself with your own character. It's kind of not like a gaming model, but you can get it and everyone's trying to belong and have their identity in this space,
Right.
which I think is going to be
a fun
fun.
way to work on your self-awareness
Yeah.
and who you want to be.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
We're gamifying self-growth.
Yes.
It's just a way. If you want to talk about, through the language of gaming, okay, so let's imbue this with all kinds of good things and use that platform.
And I think on Friday, Mike Worth, his work is at the front of the gallery. He was talking about how he uses AI and technology to have a greater spiritual meditation connection.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So there's so many ways to utilize technology that we're just now scratching the surface, and we're having fun doing it.
Yeah.
That's why JADA is all, we're here to try and, test the waters and, have fun together doing it.
Yeah. That's so interesting because obviously we've heard so much and we have so much evidence of how detrimental technology can be and the dark path that we are sure to go down on.
But we just pull the light out of it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's that little glimmer, of how really different it can be for the better.
Yeah.
So
we try to be optimistic.
We're very optimistic, and again, one of the elements of metamodernism is we drop nihilism from postmodernism, right? We drop. We don't focus on the problems. We know they exist. We know that.
Yeah.
That's real life. But we try to find the redemption. So we try to identify ways out of the problem. And we might not get out of the problem, but we'll keep trying until we find a better solution or a better situation. So NFTs are here. The blockchain is here. People are challenging the norms in banking and all kinds of things. How can we use that to our advantage for the sake of mutual connection? That's what we're doing.
Amazing. You guys have knocked it out of the park. This is so.
We're honored to be with you today, Jenny. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah, we're
so
a big fan of yours.
What did you say? Fangirling Miami Lit?
Yeah.
I know Miami
You're
Lit.
too kind, Sam. I'm honestly so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be able to share the day with you all and your amazing art. I have one last question for you, which I know it's a tricky one, but which is your favorite piece?
Oh,
Oh.
you guys start. I'm not
I
starting.
might be biased. No, I'm just kidding. I would say Mike because it's so right on with what we're trying to talk about this weekend. If you go to his piece, it's a fabric, digital work, but then when you get it, you go up to his QR code and you scan it, it animates and it becomes augmented.
Yeah.
And I think that's my most fascinating corner and experience that I've really enjoyed because a lot of people love to talk about it. And then it goes into the whole tech space and how we're bonding art and technology. Right.
Yeah, and his piece is he defines his pieces as digital midrashes, and midrash is Hebrew for kind of folklore and legend, and it encompasses the wisdom of our fathers and mothers. So to tie that with technology, it's really a big deal. Yeah.
Hence his spiritual connection. So
Mhm.
Okay, what's your favorite piece?
Well, I have to agree that I'm a big fan of Mike's work with the augmented reality. That's amazing. I want to say JÓNATAS has this work called In Thy Tent I Dwell that he's been showing for a while now, but I've seen it several times before, but I've never seen it the way we have it on display here, where it's the past couple times I've seen it, it's like a room you enter, but now this kind of version, it's just thrown against the wall. It looks really cool.
But it's still
like
very inviting
yeah.
and dimensional.
And I do want to add, I have been asking a lot of people who come here what their favorite is this year. And I've been hearing a lot of people say they like Dana's pyramids a lot.
Oh.
Yeah, I have to say we have all these. I don't know if you can see on camera to the left and right. We have
There's 7.
There's 7 in
Pyramids.
total.
Yeah.
But
Pyramids
we have,
of belonging.
It's the highlight
Yeah.
of the art fair for sure.
And they're still a work in progress
Yeah.
Really?
up until this point because I was doing them up
You're
until
working
the
on them.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
a little
okay.
bit at a time.
Yeah, a little bit.
But that's all right. That's called
I mean,
life.
They're
Always
beautiful.
evolving.
I don't see how you can make it better, but
Aw,
that's why
thank
you're
you.
the artist and not me.
Yeah, you have an end vision, right? But it's great to thank you. That's great to have the conversations because you have to add your favorite.
My favorite, I'm really going to credit those who don't call themselves artists, the metaverse designers. I think they really went above and beyond, and it's what they created art. It's a work of art, and it's great. So we have this thing. It's kind of a JADA tradition to give recognition to the one who expects the least. And if I were to give anybody a prize, I would give them a prize as an art award, because they did not do it thinking of themselves as artists, but the texture, the environment, the calmness, the aesthetics that they were able to produce. It's a work of art, and we're there with our artwork. So it's, in a way, I'm being political here. Let's just put it that way.
No, but
Because
it's true.
by appreciating their work, we're appreciating every single work that's here because it's all there.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask. I think we have over 100 pieces in the metaverse
It's a big deal.
in the gallery.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask Eros on stage, but he's working
running
on
around.
he's running around working on the metaverse.
Somebody has to work here.
He's working hard while we're up here. But yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much
Thank you.
for sharing and for having us and for creating this amazing weekend filled with meaningful art. I can only see this grow and become much more part of the fabric of Miami Art Week. So I'm so excited to see where you all take this. It's amazing.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
thank you.
No, my pleasure. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. This is Jenny again with Miami Lit Podcast at the amazing JCC Center at the JADA Art Fair. And we have 2 very, very important guests today. sponsors and supporters of the art fair. Welcome, gentlemen, Nick and Hugo.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourselves?
Absolutely. I'll go first. Nicholas Satmary. I am the Director of Operations for Sanctuary Cannabis. We're in multiple states, but our newest state, Florida, we're really focusing on bringing the best quality products to the patients in Florida. And I'll get a little bit more into that as we go, but I'll let Hugo, my good friend here.
And my name is Hugo, and I'm Director of Strategy for Sanctuary Cannabis. And we're very glad to be here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. How was that transition? Because I know you are in New Hampshire and Massachusetts.
Yep.
How was the transition to come down here to Florida?
Come down to Florida? It's a good question. So each state is really separate at this point right now. Mm-hmm. So the regulations, the customer base, the patient base, the education, which, I always like to talk about education. It's different in each state, right? So I guess the first thing is the compliance, the regulatory framework in each state is very different. So how I like to move into a new state is really best practices. So what I've learned from best practices of being in the industry for about 10 years now, and when you start to do that, okay, you start to know what the regulatory agencies are going to look for, which makes it a little bit easier, but they still want to see certain things. And so New Hampshire is just a medicinal state. Massachusetts is a medicinal and recreational or adult use state, meaning anybody over the age of 21 can purchase cannabis. And Florida is just medicinal right now. Massachusetts, the products are a little bit, they're more recreational. They're funner. They got a buzz to them, whereas in Florida, it's very medicinal, white,
right,
plain print. And so just those little bits of different things are probably the hardest part of it. But like I said, following best practices, you know where to step. So
we've seen recently a lot of talk about putting in the ballot cannabis and letting people, have their choice. What do you guys think about that?
So that question has a couple moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
Several have to deal with even if federal regulation became legal for this plant, which happens to be a medicine, there will be an evolution for that legislation to be able to be properly written, not only at the national or the federal, but also at the state level. So that can also create some dynamic challenges, which can allow the average end user to be able to figure out where they're actually going to get their medicine. So the reason why I'm kind of transitioning with that introduction is that, and I always use a great example. For example, when you go to, let's say, the pharmacy like a Walgreens, even though you're at a pharmacy and you have several aisles that have medicine, do you take heartburn medicine for your headache? And you don't. And the challenge is that there's a lot of miseducation when it comes to this plant, right? Because this plant has, let's say, millions of different types of strains that can evolve and continuously create different types of anecdotal, let's say, medicine types. So because of that, you have to be able to kind of reverse engineer at the root cause of what this medicine can do, right? Because there's a significant amount of stigma that kind of surrounds this medicine as the Rastafarian / stoner type that's conveyed in the media, when in reality, a lot of for example, if you have a child that has seizures and you can create a particular type of oil that the child can then ingest in their mouth that can stop the seizure, that alone provides a lot of evidence, not only from a research perspective, but also just from a human empathy perspective, right? So there's a lot of education that has to be passed down, not only at the regular consumer, but also towards the government and public policy perspective. So I consider that question, very dynamic in nature as it evolves. Now, as Nick mentioned, in the state of Florida, each state kind of evolves and has their own market, right? Now, the West Coast, and I actually just brought this up in a conversation, and one of the interesting metrics on the West Coast is about 70 to 80% of the cannabis or the medicine that is sold in the West Coast is all black market, right? The East Coast is a different anomaly and a different beast because several of the states tried to eliminate a lot of the stigma from the West Coast and created a significant amount of proper best practices to be able to create a great ecosystem to introduce this medicine. So Florida, I think Florida's legislation passed around 2016.
I believe so.
Yeah, around 2016. And they had 2 tiers of license types where the first tier were the original grandfathers and let's say the True Leaves of the world. And then there was a second round and I think even a third round. And us here at Sanctuary, we were lucky enough to be able to be granted one of the second round licenses. So because of that, we started our blueprint and our model a little towards the latter end of the evolution of Florida. But what that did to our organization is it allowed us to take a lot of our best practices from other states to be able to create a best-in-class operation that then create medicine for patients first, less recreational, right? Because a lot of our team members that are part of our platform, we believe in the medicine before the profit motive, right? Because myself being a veteran with the United States Marine Corps, I've seen a lot of negative constraints on, having friends and colleagues that have come back from combat and have killed themselves because of PTSD and because the traditional medicine has positioned them into opiates. Mm-hmm. And after seeing that firsthand time and time again, I kind of made it a personal initiative to be able to introduce this medicine to eliminate that constraint. So piggybacking off Nick, it's kind of our mission to build a great platform that is medicine first, recreational second, and we continuously love to bring that initiative here to Florida. And I think right now in the last let's say 2 years, we've gone from one dispensary in Orlando to how many are we at right now?
We're about to open I believe it's our 17th store in Miami.
Wow.
Grand opening's the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody should stop by.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And that's what we're saying right here is, and then education too. That's another massive part of what we do. So, we have a clinical physician on site or on call to answer any questions that you might have to help out. Also, if you visit our website, www.sanctuarymed.com, we have educational materials on that. So education, massive part of the cannabis industry. There's been a lot of clinical studies done. We're still finding new benefits from it. Where there's just something just came out recently where, cannabis use in younger folk as compared to older folk. Younger folk might not be the greatest. Older folk, it actually helps spark those synapses and the cannabinoid, and it actually helps their brain grow and keeps it young, keeps it alive. So we're constantly learning new things. I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. But
and what's segueing from that communication is that there's a lot of negative constraints with miseducation, as Nick mentioned. And believe it or not, and most people don't know the root cause of why, right? And kind of the root cause, and without going into the political conversations of that, in the 70s, the Nixon administration scheduled cannabis as a Scheduled I drug. And a Schedule I drug means that they from an apples to apples perspective, they stated that cannabis had the same apples to apples comparisons as crack cocaine and heroin, right? Now, because they transitioned it into a Schedule 1 drug, what that meant is that universities, research institutions could not do any research on a Schedule 1 drug or plant because the universities could lose their scholarships and funding, right? So because of that, a lot of the research has been led by Israel, right? Mm-hmm. Israel has led the this particular industry with regards to research and development, with regards to best operating procedures. I think the founder of THC is Israeli and from Israel. Do you remember his name? The founder of THC? The founder that founded THC is from Israel, right? So Israel has led the forefront from an international perspective, which is amazing to see. But now as this medicine is becoming has created from a profit motive perspective and from an economic perspective, it's created the appropriations and the tax dollar, which drives momentum at the public level. So now at the public level, that's now feeding the machine to be able to continuously introduce this medicine to other states because it creates tax revenue for the state, right? So now over time, as it transitions, there's an evolution into creating the right research, creating the right programs. And luckily, we have an amazing team that has created some great educational learning management systems, continuing medical education courses. A part of one of our medical directors that we have that leads from a science side is Dr. Gregory L. Smith, MD, MPH. So he's a Harvard MD. He's written several textbooks that are taught in academia. So we're continuously trying to bring that type of acumen to states from an education perspective. And the great thing that we ask from any strategic partners or sponsorships of this element is we use this as a bridge to be able to strategically present this education as a way to educate others on what this medicine can do than just a plant that people smoke from a recreational perspective. So because of that, we really thank you guys for even thinking about entertaining us to speak, because it's like-minded individuals like you and the viewers and the listeners that are listening that help drive this momentum to create great medicine for patients.
That's amazing.
Well said.
Yeah, I'm honestly a little bit stunned by what I've just learned, because to be fully transparent and honest, and not to be conspiratorial, but whatever, I probably am. I always held the belief that there was so much information that was in the dark about the uses and benefits of cannabis due to just big pharma and them not being interested in exploring those as options. So the fact that this goes much deeper than that, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think those tides are starting to. You're seeing those tides change, right? We're seeing a change on a state level. 21 recreational states now. I think there's 39 medicinal states, I want to say. And then obviously on the federal level, it's going to change too. And he mentioned, federal funding, big pharma, federal funding, grants, schools, colleges. There's the Safe Banking Act that's going to hopefully benefit the cannabis industry. So there are things slowly starting to change that we see that's hopefully going to end federal prohibition on this. And it's exciting.
What are some of the biggest stigmas, as you mentioned earlier, that you guys have seen throughout the last couple of years?
Biggest stigmas?
Yeah.
On the cannabis industry?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm guilty on it too, actually. When I first started in the cannabis industry, it was, recreational, just like
gateway drug?
Gateway, not so much gateway, just more of, stoner.
That's what we
People
were
are gonna,
taught, right? When we were young. Like
gateway, exactly. Reefer madness back in the, like you were talking about. And then the gateway drug, and it's just really, stoners and this and that.
Mhm.
And I was guilty of kind of thinking the same way. And it wasn't until we opened our first store, we were the first to open a dispensary in New Hampshire, that a patient actually came up to me and was basically in tears, crying about how much our product helped them with their chemotherapy.
Wow.
Everything went out the window that I thought. I'm like, okay, it brought me to tears, and so
Yeah.
it really, and that was 8 years ago now, and so it's really my view on it's changed. It's an exciting industry to be in, and it's definitely helping a lot of people. Oh, absolutely helping a lot of people.
And I can kind of piggyback off of his communication and narrative. So some interesting stigmas. The first one is that, so for example, there in any type of industry, whether art or so on, you have to take the time and the energy to go through the we call it the user journey, right? From a patient to the dispensary providing the medicine to the patient, right? So the first is the stigma, and I always use my mother as an example, right? So the first is that you have my mother is, I knew if I could convert my mother, that I can convert anyone, right? And the reason why is, I grew up very Roman Catholic, right? The cannabis was always seen as the devil's lettuce, right? And my mother was, my mother's anti any, if it's not prescribed by a doctor, she doesn't believe in it, right? So I knew that if I can convert my mother, that I can convert anyone. So when I first started in the industry in general, we, without knowing anything, I needed to believe this myself. So after performing a ton of due diligence and a ton of just research, independent research, I was floored, right? So then we got with one of our media teams, and we created, I want to say maybe a 10-minute documentary video that basically we introduced the plant. We provided a significant amount of educational research. Then we showed several kids that had, autism and seizures, and we showed how, these babies, by taking the medicine, they can stop their seizures and so on. And after we created this documentary, we kind of did our own, our feasibility pilot study. So I took like 10 mothers, right? And I put them in a room and I had them all watch this video, right? And as we independently watched them, and I can see that, they're crying as they're watching it because they're feeling empathetic, and they're now getting educated on the many years of what they've been lied to. And then as soon as we sat down with each independent, mother, the first question we asked is, what did you think? And one by one, they all said the same statement. I'll never forget. They would say, "Oh my God, I did not know. Oh my God, I did not know. I did not know. I did not know." So then after there, which leads to the next kind of stigma, is modes of intake, right? So what I mean by modes of intake is the stigma that the world has been educated on is that you have this medicine, and that in order for you to be able to receive the benefits, you have to smoke it, right? Such as reefer madness, it has to be smoked in a joint or so on, or a bowl, and that's a lie, right? Because certain states that are very, let's say Bible Beltish, right, that are anti-stigma, start introducing this medicine as an oil, right? And how is the oil ingested? It's usually sublingual. So you take oil and put it under your tongue, right? So an example is my mother, since I was 12, she suffers from reflex sympathetic dystrophy, and also, I can't ever say it, but it's fibromyalgia. Yeah, yes. So it's very. I was born in Quito, Ecuador, so it's very tough for me to say that. So So my mother forever, I thought she was just making this up, right? Because an entire month, we would look at 3 weeks of the month, she would be amazing. And then 1 week, she would just be in bed and she couldn't move it because she was in pain. And forever, I thought it was just mental, right? I'm like, this can't be real, growing up. And it wasn't until I got older and I started doing my own independent research and, started talking to other, physicians, then I kind of transitioned. And my mother has always suffered from pain and she was anti-opiates, anti-any medicine. So therefore, she always suffered from pain. And it wasn't until the latter end where after 10 years of being in this industry, giving her a significant amount of research and everything, right? She would still not touch this medicine, right? Then one day, it was her last straw. My mom's in her 60s now. And she's like, she comes over to the office and she says, Hugo, she's like, I can't sleep. I'm in so much pain. She goes, the doctors now just want me to take these opiates, right? And this is the only thing they can do. And at that time, finally, I just had the last straw because I'm 40 now, so I'm older. So now I could kind of, do these type of things. So I said, Mom, come over here, right? I'm like, open your mouth, right? And she goes, and I'm like, open your mouth now. And she's open. And then I took oil and I put it in her mouth, right? I put a thing in her mouth and then she closed her mouth. And then I said, okay. I was like, I watched the clock for 2 minutes and then I looked at her. I said, Mom, are you high? And then she goes, no, exactly. Right? Because what happens in the medicine is the stigma, which is you have a psychoactive side and a non-psychoactive side, right? Now, when you're dealing with each independent end, right, you have ratios of, without going into the science, you have ratios of what's in there, right? And some are, and I'll use this as an example, right? Because people don't know. So when you go to a liquor store, right? Imagine that somebody says that, okay, here's a bottle, right? A bottle of tequila, right? Now, do you drink the whole bottle? No.
Hopefully not.
Right? You don't drink the whole bottle. Do you do 10 shots? No. Right? And the challenge is that there's so much miseducation where you go into a recreational environment like California, right? And one of these, let's say gummies could be 10 tequila bottles in one little gummy.
Oh, wow.
Right? And the average person doesn't know. So they just think that they take the gummy and then they'll have a very intense psychoactive, because there's many stories are everywhere about edibles. And then now they correlate that with anything else moving forward, right? In certain states like Florida, in medical states, that's regulated, right? So I think one gummy can only be, is it 5 milligrams here?
10 milligrams.
10 milligrams the most,
max, yeah.
Right? So for example, 10 milligrams is even more, is a little too much for me. I like to cut the gummy in half and I'll do 5 milligrams, right? Because I know I'm in the industry, right? And then everybody's body is different because inside of us, we have a system called the endocannabinoid system. And this system heals itself. So who does not want you to know that there's a system that heals itself? Big Pharma, right?
So I was right.
Yeah. So Big Pharma does not want you to know that you have a system that heals itself. Now, this system, it really wasn't really presented and known until about the late 80s, early 90s. So now think about how long it takes for you to learn about a system. So if you're a doctor, it takes 20 years for you to perfect a system, right? So now you have all of these doctors that are learning about this new system that's now being taught in school. And imagine if you're a doctor and you spent your whole life studying the body and you just learned now that there's a new system, right? So here's where it gets intriguing. So you're telling me that you have continuing education where a doctor now can take a 4-hour course, get a certificate, and then now say they know everything about a system? No. So you have that side of the spectrum that's, that's very intuitive because there's, out of all of the let's say all of doctors and physicians, there's only probably a small percentage, like 5% worldwide, that actually understand the system, right? So it's going to take time for that transition to happen. I believe in better education, or actually better medicine through education. So the power is actually at the end consumer through Google of doing your own research, because it's very rare for you to be able to go to your own provider, your own doctor, and say, hey, Dr. Anthony or Dr. John, what do you think about cannabis? And by law, if they even try to guide you in that direction or prescribe you, they can lose their medical license.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I just want to add in, and even then, we're still finding new cannabinoids, which are, THC is a psychoactive cannabinoid, it's very well known. Same with CBD, another cannabinoid. We're still finding new cannabinoids. So the system, like he was saying, can't take a 4-hour course. Well, you still can't. We don't know everything about the system yet. Even being highly regulated, we get all of our products tested for cannabinoids, and the lab came back the other day and said, okay, yeah, we're doing we're always playing, we're always compounding, we're trying to find what works for our patients when they reach out for a product. And they said, okay, well, hey, we found some unknown cannabinoids in your product. Let's study those. And so this is a third party ISO accredited lab. So there's still unknown cannabinoids out there. So it's going to take a little while to really understand the system.
It must be so rewarding though for you, I'm assuming, to be at the forefront of something like this, where you can actually change people's lives and give them back their lives and quality of life.
Absolutely. And that goes back to that story 8 years ago. The person totally changed my life.
Yeah.
View on everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of being in support of better health and just better everything, you are big supporters of the JADA Art Fair here this weekend at Miami Art Week. How has that experience been?
Well, I'll add in, then I'll let you speak on that a little bit, Hugo. But cannabis medicinally, you think systems, right? Or symptoms. Sorry, not system. We're talking about system. You think of symptoms, headache, seizures, whatnot. Well, I know a lot of people believe that medicinally, art, music, and cannabis, they all go together. It opens up, kind of frees your mind. And that, to me, is a medicinal thing. So I really feel cannabis and art do kind of go together. So I'm a big supporter in art and JADA. Yeah.
And that's a great statement, Nick. What's amazing to me from my side is, I've gotten to see JADA. I think this is the 10th year. And I've been kind of part of the overall initiative since year one. So seeing the evolution of how this platform has evolved in Miami and the art scene, and how the acceptance and education of art in general has definitely been a great, or has founded a great new perspective towards learning about art in general. And 10 years ago, when I was first introduced to art, I didn't really have an appreciation towards it. And the reason why is because I didn't have the education to understand what goes into a piece of art. And it wasn't until starting to go through the JADA art journey that we started getting educated on the dimensions, the layers, the colors, the oils, just understanding that one painting could take a year. And you ask yourself why? Because certain oils have to dry. And then now it starts making sense. So when you start seeing a value and you say, okay, why is this painting XYZ amount, right? And from an economic perspective, I start reverse engineering and I start equating that. And I'm like, wow, because it took 200 hours to create this painting. And now what is your time worth, right? So if I equate my time and I say, let's say $100 an hour times 200 hours, that's what? What's 100 times That's
Don't ask
$20,000.
me.
So now it's a $20,000 painting, right? We're still recovering from last night. So my synapses aren't firing right now. But let's just say that's a $20,000 painting. So now when you see value and you see 20,000, now I appreciate it. And it's what's amazing is through the years, I've personally become a collector now, right? So
That's so cool.
so I collect art. So when people come to my offices, they're like, wow, look at your art. And then I can go through and I can educate them of why I appreciate it. Because you get to understand all of those disciplines. Now, kind of what Nick said is there's a good quote. I had a great mentor, 20 years ago that said, what's the definition of a shooting star? No, I'm sorry. What's the definition of a big star? And then he would say that it's a little star that keeps on shooting, right? So what that means to me is we all had to start somewhere, right? And seeing this let's say platform, because I consider it a platform, not just an art fair, because it's an entire ecosystem between, the fairs internationally, in Miami, France, New York, Brazil, Portugal, and seeing it evolve and going to France myself last year. It's amazing to see a grassroots movement that started with a handful of individuals go international, right? So it's almost like us on the sanctuary side where we started with one dispensary in New Hampshire, right? Because there's a great story, and I can't talk about it too much because of it's very personal. But a lot of the founders, they too had their own stories of what led them to the space. And it was because of the medicine first, right? And then from there, the evolution evolved from one dispensary to another state to dispensaries in different states and so on. So the 1,000-mile journey begins with one single step, and seeing this journey start with one step here, evolving to where it's at now, it's going to be amazing to continuously help, this opportunity grow, help this platform grow, and then see it grow with us here in Florida, especially in Miami.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know, that it's safe to say, I can speak for them when I say they're so happy to have you here. And I think this is such
Thank
a
you.
valuable conversation. And I love the component of education that you bring to all this, because I feel like that's so important. There's so many misconceptions and judgments that go into this that I think we can all say we've been guilty of.
Mhm.
So to see a company like yours where it's putting education at the forefront and is being fully transparent, I think that's going to make all the difference.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And thank you so much for being here and sharing with us. And we'll make sure to have Sanctuary linked down below so everybody can come check it out, ask their questions, and hopefully get some relief from whatever is going on in their lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody who's tuned in, who's watching. I also want to thank JADA for having us and the JCC we're so grateful to be part of this amazing weekend.
Awesome. No, it's an honor, and we appreciate all of you. So thank you.
Yeah. Pleasure being here. Thank you.
Likewise. We'll see you all soon.